I really liked Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time in 2003. It changed how 3D action games work with a cool rewind ability. This made the puzzles better and the fights more fun. Even though there were more games with similar things, none were as good. Hey there, welcome to Pop Culture Pulse. Today we're diving into Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. Is it as awesome as the original with its amazing story, or is it another letdown from Ubisoft's game series? Stick around to discover if it's worth the hype. The Lost Crown really hits the spot for fans of the classic games. It takes the best ideas from those old Prince of Persia games and puts them into a 2D style like the original from 1989. In this game, The Lost Crown does a great job with both the platforming, jumping around and stuff, and the combat dash, fighting bad guys. It brings the whole experience to a 2D view, which adds to the nostalgic feel. The game nails it with precise and snappy controls that feel fantastic. Just like Sands of Time and the 2009 Prince of Persia reboot, you always know what you need to do. The Lost Crown is like a fresh take on the series, going in its own direction while still keeping some familiar elements. The basic idea is pretty enticing. You play as a quick and acrobatic hero exploring a massive, semi-ruined place full of deadly traps, soldiers, and monsters. To succeed, you'll need a mix of strength and cleverness. The Lost Crown brings a fresh story inspired by Persian mythology, taking us on an adventure with intriguing characters. As players, we step into the shoes of Sargon, part of Persia's elite warrior group, the Immortals. Their mission is to save Prince Ghassan, who's been kidnapped and taken to Mount Kaf, a place where the usual rules of time and space get a bit wonky. The story in The Lost Crown unfolds with some cool surprises and action scenes that could easily be from an anime. Our guy Sargon kicks off as a skilled fighter, and the immediate access to a variety of combat tools makes battling enemies just as engaging as exploring the expansive map. Sargon's speed is his standout quality, but even basic enemies pack a punch, requiring you to constantly read and respond to their moves. The consistent challenge from enemies keeps every battle thrilling and significant throughout my 30 hours in Mount Kaf, even on the normal difficulty setting. The enjoyment comes from mastering all the tools at your disposal. One of the Lost Crown's standout features is its increased emphasis on close combat, going beyond the typical expectations of a Metroidvania game. Taking a page from the Devil May Cry playbook, it encourages you to focus on creating and maintaining combos to gain an edge. For instance, kicking smaller enemies into the air allows you to juggle them, while sneaking behind larger foes helps you avoid their attacks. Along with regular strikes, you've got upward and downward attacks, as well as aerial maneuvers. Sargon's repertoire also includes moves stemming from dodges and slides, along with heavier attacks that can be charged up or altered based on when you execute them in a combo. In The Lost Crown, they made a great choice to focus more on up-close fighting, and all the moves are easy to pull off, but they make you feel like a powerful warrior all the time. As I got better at understanding my opponents and doing combos, it made me feel awesome, dominating them and adding to the excitement. The combat in this new Prince of Persia is really cool and stylish. Sargon and the other Immortals, the non-player characters, move super fast during fights. Bright colors pop up in the background as they dodge and block strong attacks. Sometimes, if you do a move just right, a quick cutscene plays, taking out regular enemies in a flashy way. But if you miss a block, the game lets you know you messed up, and tough enemies will make you pay for it. Sargon's got some cool moves called Athra Surge abilities, and they get even flashier. You charge them up by smacking enemies around. Once powered up, you can throw a bunch of enemies in the air together, make a healing spot, or shoot a super strong arrow that lights up with flare. Boss battles are where the combat really shines. The usual rules from regular fights still apply. You can block some hits and counter others for a big cinematic smackdown. But bosses have their own tricks, like moves you can't block, and they even use Athra abilities. You've got to figure out their moves and dodge them. The fact that bosses in The Lost Crown have abilities similar to yours makes the fights feel like real tests of skill. In The Lost Crown, they ditched the time rewinding power that's been a big part of most Prince of Persia games. Now, if you mess up a platforming part, you just go back to the last bit of solid ground you touched, with a bit of damage. It might not be as cool thematically, but don't worry, it's a faster, cleaner way to fix your mistakes. Usually, redoing a platforming part doesn't feel like a drag, because you can try again almost right away. The only time you really face consequences is when your health runs out completely. As players explore The Lost Crown, as you roam around the huge map, get ready for lots of fighting, jumping around, and figuring out puzzles. The game keeps things interesting by offering a mix of challenges so it never gets dull. The Lost Crown nails it in these key areas, finding a sweet spot in how tough it makes things. Jumping around, for instance, can be pretty tricky, with some parts feeling a lot like the game Celeste. I'm sure you are familiar with that game. Even though these bits might take a few tries, it never gets too annoying. Well, the excitement comes from the cool platforming where Sargon uses his special skills to do some amazing stuff, zipping through tight spots, swinging on poles, and dodging things just in time to stay alive. In addition, there's a really cool thing called memory shards. These are like a handy feature that marks the map and takes a picture of the spot you're in. So if you find a tricky obstacle and don't know how to get past it, just use a memory shard to snap a picture. Later on, when you've got what you need, you can check the pic and go back to tackle that obstacle. It's more than just putting a mark on the map, it helps you decide if it's worth going back to an area. Memory shards totally change the game for Metroidvania fans, and it'd be awesome if other games in this style start using them too. The only downside is that some of the bosses are repeated multiple times, which can get repetitive, but otherwise, the boss battles in the Lost Crown are thrilling, edge-of-your-seat fights. Those having trouble with a particular boss have ways to help even the odds. While Sargon doesn't level up, players can still increase his stats by finding helpful items hidden in Mount Kaf's twisted corridors or by purchasing weapon upgrades and amulets. Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown's massive map features huge swaths of optional areas that players can ignore if they want, but doing so means missing out on valuable rewards. Mount Kaf is truly gigantic, filled with secret rooms and hidden areas that make exploring it a treat, even if the backtracking can sometimes become a little too much. Instead of letting players fast travel from one save point to the next, there are dedicated fast travel rooms, but they aren't plentiful enough, and so, inevitably, there are stretches of the game where players are subjected to some tedious backtracking. This new installment to the Prince of Persia franchise only captures the greatness of classics like Sands of Time but also fixes many small issues that bugged the 3D games in the series. It chooses a 2D perspective and totally owns that decision. It also works really well as a classic Metroidvania, sticking to the tried-and-true elements of the genre but doing them with precision. So while the story can be a bit confusing at times, it's the quick and enjoyable combat system, the tight and satisfying controls, and the stylish look and feel that make Sargon's journey stand out. The Lost Crown proves to be a worthy successor to the best of the Prince of Persia legacy. Get the latest video game updates and pop culture news by subscribing to our YouTube channel, Our Pop Culture Pulse. Have you tried the Lost Crown yet? Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments, hit the like button, and ring the notification bell. Until next time.